Peace and blessings to the 12 tribes of Israel. Today I'm going to deal with a Bible share called City of Refuge. So there was cities of refuge that were set up for Israelites that were refugees, basically, that were cast away from the rest of Israel for say you had an unintentional death or something that you did and you unintentionally kill someone, then the law states that you shouldn't be killed, right? Because in the Old Testament, if you kill someone, you had to be killed, right? If you murder someone intentionally, then you had to be killed, right? So it's a life for a life. But however, if you accidentally, unintentionally kill someone, you were not killed. But what would happen to you is that you were put away from the rest of Israel. So you were taken away from the rest of Israel. So they were put in a place called the City of Refuge. And in all, there was about 48 cities that was allotted to Israel on both sides of Jordan, right? So let's go through a few scriptures that kind of explains this, right? So let's go to Exodus 21:13. So let's deal with when Moses spoke on the law of refuge. So we read in Exodus 21:13. And if a man lie not in wait, right? So it's not premeditated, but God delivered him into his hand, then I would appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor, so he deliberately killed his neighbor, so slay him with guile, thou shalt take him mine altar that he may die. Right, so let's read it again. Let's read 14 again. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. Right, so it's going into the premeditated murder and an accidental death, right? So there's a difference between someone that just slays someone, they want to murder someone, and someone that accidentally kills someone, right? So let's read again. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he should flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, that's with evil, thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. So he should be taken out, basically. He should be put to death. That's what the Bible is saying. So if you kill someone, if you murder someone premeditatedly, right, then you were to be put to death, right? So that's what that scripture is saying. So this was the law on that, right? So let's go to the actual place where it talks a little bit more about the cities that were set up as refugee cities. So let's read Numbers 35. And we're going to read from 1 to 15. So here, ready, go. And the Lord spoke unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, so this was all done in the location of the plains of Moab. So on the east side of Jordan, you had the plains of Moab, or Shittim. And on the other side of Jordan, you had the land of the Canaanites, or you had Jericho and all the other lands on the west side of the river, right? So this is dealing with on the east side of the river, which is the plains of Moab. So let's read again. And the Lord spoke unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, command the children of Israel that they give unto Levites of the inheritance of their possession cities to dwell in, and ye shall give also unto the Levites suburbs for the cities round about them. So the Levites didn't really have a land per se for themselves, so they were given cities to live in, right? So that they can live in those cities. And the city shall they have to dwell in, and the suburbs of them shall be their for their cattle and for their goods and for their beasts. And the suburbs of the cities which ye shall give unto the Levites shall reach from the wall of the city and outward 1,000 cubits round about. Right, so the wall of the city would have been, I suppose that would be the boundary, right? So that would be the boundary entrance to the city. And ye shall measure from without the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits. And the city shall be in the midst. This shall be to them the suburbs of the city. So the Lord is now saying through Moses what constitutes a suburb that is good for the Levite priest to live in, and for the city of refuge. And among the cities which ye shall give unto the Levites, there shall be 6 cubits for refuge, which ye shall appoint for the manslayer, that he may flee thither. So the manslayer will be the person that kills someone unintentionally. For the manslayer, so it says, among the cities which ye shall give unto the Levites, there shall be 6 cities for refuge, which ye shall appoint for the manslayer, that he may flee thither. To them ye shall add 42 cities. So that calculates to 48 cities in all. So all the cities which ye shall give to the Levites shall be 48 cities. So there will be 48 cities of where the Levite priests were supposed to be lodging. Them shall ye give with their suburbs. The cities which ye shall give shall be of the possession of the children of Israel. From them that have many ye shall give many, but from them that have few ye shall give few. Everyone shall give of his cities unto the Levites according to his inheritance which he inherited. So I suppose every tribe inherited their own land apart from the Levites. So the Levites had cities in, well, pretty much dotted around everyone's land. These cities of refuge was pretty much dotted around the land that was given to Israel. So it was about 6 cities that was given. So you had 3 on the eastern side of the River Jordan, and you have 3 on the western side of the River Jordan. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come over Jordan into the land of the Canaanites, so that's the west side of the Jordan, then ye shall appoint you cities to be cities of refuge for you, that the slayer may flee thither, which killeth any person at unawares. So that's an unintentional killer. And they shall be unto you cities of refuge for the avenger. Avenger would be the person that would be avenging them, right? So obviously the whole point of them living in the city of refuge was because you had an avenger that would have been after them, right? So if someone accidentally kills someone of your family, you'll be very angry about it and you'll want to kill them, because the Lord does say, if you kill someone, you should get killed, right? If you murder someone intentionally, you should get killed. So let's read 12. And they shall be unto you cities for refuge from the avenger, that the manslayer die not until he stand before the congregation in judgment. And of these cities which ye shall give, six cities shall you have for refuge. You shall give 3 cities on the side of Jordan, on this side of Jordan, and 3 cities shall ye give on the land of the Canaanites. So this side of Jordan would have been over the other side, where the Reubenites, Gad and Manasseh, that side. So that would have been the eastern side of the Jordan River. So it says 3:14 again, you shall give 3 cities on this side of the Jordan, because Moses was on the plains of Moab. So he would have been on Reubenite, the land that was allotted to the Reubenites. And you shall give 3 cities on the side of Jordan, and 3 cities shall you give in the land of the Canaanites, or Canaan, which shall be cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be a refuge both for the children of Israel, and for the stranger, and for the sojourner among them, that everyone that killeth any person unawares may flee thither. So this was a law that was for the children of Israel and for the strangers. The strangers wouldn't necessarily be of other nations. They would have been Israelites from outside of the camp. For these cities shall be a refuge both for the children of Israel, for the strangers and for the sojourner among them, that everyone that killeth any person unawares may flee thither. Right, so if you killed any person unawares, right, there's where you will flee. Right, so that's what it's going into. So that would have been for the Israelites and any of the nations that were following Israel at that particular time. Right, so let's now go to Joshua 2, and we're going to read from 1 to 14. Now, I'm not going to over-egg the pudding with this, because I've already done a video on this. But we're just going to go over the cities of refuge. I thought it'd be interesting to go over the city of refuge. So we're reading Joshua 2, and we're going to read from 1 to 14. Now, bear in mind, this is Joshua, in the time of Joshua, when Moses had died. Bear that in mind when you're reading here. So it says, so we read in Jordan 2, reading from 1 to 14. And Joshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go view the land, even Jericho. And they went and came into a harlot's house called Rahab and lodged there. Now, Rahab wasn't necessarily a harlot, but she was a harlot. When it says harlot, it doesn't necessarily mean that she was a prostitute, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that she was selling sex for money, right? It can just mean that she was outside of God, right? So maybe she was worshipping the Hamite gods or doing Hamite customs, right? That's why she ended up being put out of Israel, right? It was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country. So the head of Jericho is saying, hey, you got to bring these people over here. I see these strangers came here, went into your house. We've been watching you. We had surveillance on you, and we could see what you're up to. 4. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said, There came men unto me, but I was not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I don't know. Right? I'm just summarizing here. I want not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords, and as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof, and she said up unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that terror is fallen upon us. Right, so let's read it again. But she said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. So she associates herself as being part of that land. So that's in difference to the spies, which were Israelites. Now, Rahab was an Israelite too, but maybe her and her family were living there for a very long time, probably for years, possibly even a generation or two. Or maybe one generation. 10. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the river of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites. Right? So how does she know all these things? Was it because of her foremothers or her forefathers told her all of these things? So let's read on again. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the river of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. So those were the kings that lived on the land occupied by the Reubenites. So that was the plains of Moab, right? That was occupied by the Amorites, right? Around that land that was occupied by the Amorites, all of it. 11. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt, neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. Now therefore I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that you will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token, and that ye will save alive my father, my mother, my brethren, and my sisters, and that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the men answered her, our life for yours, if you utter not this our business. And it shall be, when the Lord hath given us the land, that you will deal kindly and truly with thee. Then she let them down by a cord through the window, for the house was upon the town wall. So it was upon the town wall. So so you could only, because it says town wall, we now know that it was a city of refuge. Just to purchase that point, the cities of refuge were supposed to be allotted once Israel got over Jordan. But in Joshua 2, Israel was still on the east side of Jordan, but they were supposed to be going over to the west side of Jordan. So spies had to be sent out by Joshua because Moses died, right? So Joshua took over. So Joshua sent the spies out for Jericho, right, to see what was going on in Jericho so that we could cross over, basically. So that's what happened. But the cities of refuge officially came into being when Israel crossed over into the land of the Canaanites, which would have been over Jericho and further on, right? But we can assume, because the cities of refuge was a law that God brought in, God was talking about all the way in Exodus. So the Israelites had to stay somewhere as refugees, right? If you were put away from the camp, or you did something silly, or you accidentally killed someone, you had to go somewhere. So you had to go somewhere. That's why the law had to be created in the first place, because it was a problem, right? Because there's certain Israelites that had to be put out from the rest of the Israelites. So they had to go somewhere. So that's why Jericho along that region would have been appropriately a place of refuge, which was amongst the Hamites and next to the town wall, which would have been in the suburbs, away from the main part of the city and near to the boundary of the city, which is further away from the rest of the Israelites. So let's go back to Joshua 2, and we're going to read from 15. Joshua 2:15. Then she let down by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall. And she said unto them, get you to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days until the pursuers be returned, and afterwards may you go your way. Right, I read a little bit more, but there's certain clues there to prove that she was an Israelite. How does she know about the Red Sea? And she lived on the town wall. So those are little clues to kind of give away the fact that she was living in a city of refuge, right? At least by location, right? So let's go to Deuteronomy 4. So let's go to Deuteronomy 4. And we're going to read from 41 to 43. So we're dealing with the cities of refuge. So we're reading Deuteronomy 4, and we're going to read from 41 to 43. Then Moses severed 3 cities on this side of Jordan towards the sun rising, that the slayer might flee thither, which should kill his neighbour unawares, and hated him not in times past, and that fleeing unto one of these cities he may live. Namely, Bazah. So these are the 6 cities, right? That Moses was talking about on either side of the river Jordan, namely Bazah in the wilderness, in the plain country of the Reubenites, so that will be the plains of Moab, and Ramoth in Gilead of the Gadites, Golan in Bashan of the Manassites. 44. And this is the law which Moses set before the children of Israel. These are the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments which Moses spake unto the children of Israel after they came forth out of Egypt, on this side Jordan in the valley over which Bathpor in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, whom Moses and the children of Israel smote, after they were come forth out of Egypt. So this goes into the land of the Amorites that were occupied by the Reubenites. 47, and they possessed his land and the land of the Og, king of Bashan, two kings of the Amorites, which were on this side of Jordan. So that's the east side of Jordan, and towards the sun rising. And from Arur, which is by the bank of the river Arnon, even unto Mount Sion, which is Homan, and all the plain on this side of Jordan eastward, even unto the sea of the plain under the springs of Pisgah. Right? So, I suppose this is mainly talking about the cities of refuge on the east side of the river Jordan. So, let's go to Numbers 35. So, we're going to go back to Numbers 35, and we're going to read from 24 to 34. Here, ready, go. Then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the revenger of blood according to these judgments. So this goes into the avenger and the slayer, right? And the congregation shall deliver the slayer out of the hand of the revenger of blood, and the congregation shall restore him to the city of his refuge, whither he was fled, and he shall abide in it until the death of the high priest, which was appointed with the holy oil. So the high priest, they were generally living with high priests around the region next to high priests, the Levite priests, mainly to mediate if there was any issues in terms of the avenger and the slayer, the innocent, well, the slayer that accidentally did the killing. It was to mediate that. It was to protect the slayer. 26. But if the slayer shall at any time come without the border of the city of his refuge, whither he was fled, and the revenger of blood find him without the borders of the city of his refuge, and the revenger of blood kill the slayer, he shall not be guilty of blood. So if the slayer leaves that location, right? So let's read it again. But if the slayer shall at any time come without the borders, that's outside of the borders of the city of his refuge, whither he was fled. So if he leaves that area, and the revenger of blood find him within the borders of the city of his refuge, and without the borders, that's outside, and the revenger of blood kill the slayer, he shall not be guilty of blood. So that was the laws on the city of refuge and the slayer and the avenger. 28. Because he should have remained in the city of his refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the slayer shall return into the land of his possession. So after the high priest is no longer there anymore, or there's the death of the high priest, then the slayer can return to his people again. So these things, 29, so these things shall be for the statute of judgment unto you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses. But one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. So if you kill someone intentionally, you were to be killed. Simple as that. If you murdered someone, then you had to be murdered too, right? But and it had to be at the mouth of more than one witness. Not just one witness, it had to be multiple witnesses, right? So it says, moreover, this is 31, moreover, you shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death, and ye shall take no satisfaction for him. This is fled to the city of his refuge, that he should come again to dwell in the land unto the death of the priests. 33. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So you can't have a bunch of murderers walking around. You can't have people killing people willy-nilly. You can't do that. There must be order, right? 34. Defile not therefore the land which ye shall inhabit, wherein I dwell, for I the Lord dwell among the children of Israel. So the land had to be purified, right? And there had to be order in that land. So we read in Joshua 20, and we're going to read from 1 to 9. So we just read the law under Moses, that was given by Moses for Israel to follow. Now Moses has died now. So now we're under Joshua, right? Joshua has taken over, right? So we read in Joshua 20, reading from 1 to 9. The Lord also spoke unto Joshua, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, Appoint out of you cities of refuge, whereof I spoke unto you by the hand of Moses, that the slayer that killeth any person unawares and unwittingly may flee thither, and they shall be your refuge from the avenger of blood. And when he that doeth flee unto one of these cities shall stand at the entering of the gate of the city, and shall declare, and it shall, let's read 4 again. And when he that doeth flee unto one of those cities shall stand at the entering of the gate of the city, and shall declare his cause in the ears of the elders of the city, they shall take him into the city unto them, and give him a place that he may dwell among them. So you effectively become a refugee, right? And if the avenger of blood pursue after him, then they shall not deliver the slayer up into his hand, because he smote his neighbour unwittingly, and hated him not beforehand. 6. And he shall dwell in the city until he stand before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the high priest. That shall be in those days. Then shall the slayer return and come unto his own city. So this is saying the same thing that it says in Numbers. And unto his own house, unto the city from whence he fled. Right, so he's going to go back to. So once the high priest died, then he can go back to his own city, basically his own location, his own people. Right, so read 6 again. And he shall dwell in the city until he stand before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the high priest. That shall be in those days. Then shall the slayer return and come unto his own city, and unto his own house, into the city from whence he fled. 7. And they appointed. These are the places, the cities that were appointed around that particular region. Now, there were 48 cities dotted around, but these were in that specific location around Jordan, east and westward. These were the locations. There were 48 cities given to the Levites to dwell, because they were not allotted their own land. They were not allocated their own land. So they were spread throughout the whole of the land that was occupied by Israel. And out of the 48 cities, 6 cities were supposed to be the cities of refuge. And they appointed Kadesh in Galilee, in Galilee, right, Galilee, in Mount Naphtali, and Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and Kirjath Arba, which is Hebron, in the Mount of Judah. And on the other side of Jordan by Jericho, eastward, they assigned Bazar in the wilderness upon the plain out of the tribe of Reuben, and Ramath in Gilead out of the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan out of the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them, that whosoever killeth any person. Now, when it goes into the children of Israel and the stranger, stranger doesn't necessarily mean a non-Israelite. It just means, an Israelite that visited that particular location, or, that kind of thing. That's really what it means. And were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them, and for whosoever killeth any person of unawares might flee thither, and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood, until he stood before the congregation. Right? So, these are the laws pertaining to the city of refuge. Now, I think that's clear enough. And I think that's fair enough too. I mean, if you accidentally kill someone, obviously, the law of Moses says, I mean, obviously in the New Testament, we're not going to do that. If someone kills someone that you love, you're not going to avenge, right? You're not going to do that, because in the New Testament, we're now given grace, and we are now given an avenue to go back to the Lord to repent, right? To repent and to change from our ways. We're given chances to change. So it's no more death for death. Right, you give chances. Now, you deserve death. If you intentionally kill someone, you deserve death. Right, you really deserve death. But the Lord spares you in the New Testament, and he gives you an avenue to repent. Right, so that's the difference. Whereas in Moses, it was a death for a death. So that's why this law of a city of refuge had to come in, to spare someone who unintentionally killed someone. Right? Now, brothers and sisters, I hope you were edified. Shalom.